I love the month of December. Things become darker and at the same time more illuminated. We, as I spoke about earlier, for those of you who are just joining us, we lit our Advent wreath, the second candle for symbolizing love, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later from the Christian tradition. And we welcomed in Hinduism in our interfaith altar for the Hindu holiday that celebrates the birthday of the Bhagavad Gita. Gita Jayani, this day, is celebrated by millions all over the world because this incredible story, this sacred text that Hinduism brought to us. If you have been here for a very significant amount of time, you hear me quote from time to time from the Bhagavad Gita or from the Upanishads, from Hindu scripture. The reason for that is that so much of our teaching in New Thought comes from the wisdom of Hinduism. In particular, the inclusive concept of universal oneness. Oneness, we talk about all of the time. I was teaching our practitioner students not that long ago, and we talked about this idea that if we could whittle the whole teaching of New Thought philosophy down to one word, it would be oneness. And that comes from Hinduism. Hinduism is the first recorded religion on record. It's known as the mother of all religions. And so oneness is something that was taught from the very beginning, from the very, very beginning. Thousands and thousands of years before Judaism or Christianity came onto the scene, Hinduism brought us this concept, in addition to oneness, that we are all connected. You know, that this indwelling love at the center of each one of us is that which connects all of us. This was brought to us from Hinduism. It's the bedrock of Hinduism as well as our New Thought philosophy. The Bhagavad Gita is the title of the beloved ancient scripture, and it means the song of God. That's what the Bhagavad Gita means, the song of God. And its influence on the world cannot be said enough. This timeless scripture deals with the very same spiritual concepts that we navigate today, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years later. The nature of human existence, our relationship to God or divinity, the true nature of our soul, what is that? How do we stand in our truth? Who are we really? And ultimately, the power of choosing love over fear. I've shared here before that the Bhagavad Gita was the only book that Thoreau brought with him to Walden Pond. It is largely responsible for the concepts in Ralph Waldo Emerson's essay, The Oversoul, which deeply influenced New Thought writings, especially those of Ernest Holmes. Ernest Holmes said, in fact, that the Gita was among the most beautiful spiritual works he had ever read. And for those of you who know his exquisite piece, The Voice Celestial, that he and his brother Fenwick wrote, it was a direct tribute to the Gita. Bless you. So this ancient, timeless wisdom is here with us today. One of the most famous statements in the Upanishads is Tat Tvam Asi. Tat Tvam Asi, which in Sanskrit means thou art that. Thou art that. Thousands of years later, this wisdom, thou art that, showed itself in the Hebrew Bible through the story of Moses as I am that I am. Same thing, just thousands of years later. So what does thou art that and I am that I am really mean? It's a bit to chew on. It means that you, my friend, are an emanation of God, Spirit, source energy. It means that you are that. You are that goodness. You are that godness. You are not here by happenstance or by accident or by randomness. You are here because you are that, and you are here to express that love and that godness, that goodness, same thing. in the world, not only for yourself, but for others. There's a quote attributed to St. Teresa of Avila. She said, "God has no body but yours, no hands, no feet on earth but yours. Yours are the eyes with that which God looks compassion on this world." Tat tvam asi, thou art that. I am that I am. They are all saying the very same thing. You are holy. Despite what you may have been told in the religion of your childhood, I am here to affirm for you that you are holy. There is no such thing as original sin. There is only original blessing. You are holy, and so is everyone else. Dun, 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 dun. Your being is holy. In our teaching in New Thought, we understand this. We don't, if you're here for the first time, please know, here, we don't subscribe to any kind of dogma that God is in any way punishing or harmful or scary. We don't believe that God is a Santa Claus in the sky, or that you have to behave a certain way in order to be in his favor. We don't believe that God is a man. Rather, in our New Thought teaching, we understand that God is love, full stop, full stop. And God is the love that shows up in and through us, in our interactions with each other and the ways in which we care for each other. That this love or spirit or God or quantum consciousness, whatever word works for you. My word for God happens to be love. You get to choose whatever you want. How cool is that? Whatever word works for you is great. Just know that this love, this spirit, is everywhere in, through, and as all things, and at the center of our being. This love is present within us. It's present within all people. The title of my talk today is For the Love. And that comes from a title of a book I read back in 2018 by Jen Hatmaker, her book called For the Love. I tend to revisit progressive Christian authors when I'm talking about Advent and when I'm bringing this energy of progressive Christianity here. In her book, For the Love, Jen Hatmaker wrote, "Goodness bears itself out in millions of ordinary ways across the globe, for the rich and the poor, the famous and unknown, in enormous measures and tiny, holy moments. Goodness bears itself out in millions of ordinary ways across the globe, for the rich and the poor, the famous and unknown, in enormous measures and tiny, holy moments." I was thinking about this idea of tiny, holy moments. And a memory came back to me that I had forgotten. I had completely forgotten. I was very, very young. I was 7. My little brother Michael was 6. And back in those days, we got to ride our bikes by ourselves around the neighborhood. Do you remember those days? Some of you will. Oh, the adventures. Yes. So here's little Michael and I, and there was a little, like a corner store, a block away. At the time, it felt like a mile, So of course, my mom knew exactly where we were going and when we would be coming back. And so Michael and I got on I was on a little bike and he was on a little trike. And we had a little bit of money. Now, my mom was the quintessential hippie mom. Like, she rolled her own oats for a little while. She actually did that. I have no idea how to do that. I know she did. And we were a sugar-free family for a really long time. And it was a very big deal that we got to take this little bit of money and go down to the corner store and get ourselves a treat. And we had decided we were going to get a little package of sweet tarts, which was like heaven. That was like, are you kidding me? Now, but at the time, oh my gosh. And so we were so excited. We rode our bike and he rode his little trike down to the corner store, took out our little money, got our little sweet tarts, came outside. We're getting back on our bikes. And there was a boy who was probably only 8, but he seemed like he was 28 because he was a lot taller and a lot bigger than me. And he was the bully on the block. And he was standing there with his other friends who just kind of followed him, you know. And he came right up to me and he said, you need to give me those sweet tarts. You need to give me those sweet tarts. He was stealing my candy. I don't know what came over me. To this day, and this memory, I literally had this memory and I was laughing out loud. I was like, look at that. I stood there and I looked up at him. I swear he was like that. And I went, I pretended I couldn't speak. Where did that come from? I do not know. I was 7. My brother Michael went, oh, you're good Catholic kids. I was like, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's what happened in that moment, because I was shaking in my boots. Here's the thing. He looked down and he went, you can't speak? And I went, and he had this flash of compassion. And he went, oh, hey guys, she can't speak. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And he walked away. I'm still processing that. I'm still processing that moment, as well as what happened on the way home when little Michael, after about 20 feet, stopped and he looked at me and he said, you shouldn't have lied, Shannon. You shouldn't have lied. So I'm still processing that. Again, good Catholic kids. You know, because, I mean, he was right. I shouldn't have lied. But something in me did, and what ended up happening, what transpired was I saw in the bully, I saw compassion, and I saw kindness, and I saw love. And that moment had such an impact on me. Because even as I stand here sharing that memory with you, I can feel what that did to my body in the moment. When that memory came back to me, I went, oh my gosh, that was the moment I learned compassion. That was the moment I learned compassion, and it was from the bully on the block. And he was a bully because someone was bullying him. We learned that later. But that moment was a holy moment. That moment was one of those tiny, holy moments. Let's take a minute. I invite you here and you at home, take a deep breath. You might want to close your eyes. Just take a moment, if you will, and turning within, I invite you to allow the spaciousness for a memory to surface, thinking about your own life. I invite you to recall a time where you saw compassion in the most unlikely place or from the most unlikely person. This could be from someone you knew or a complete stranger. Just allow that to surface for a moment, that memory. That tiny, holy moment. I invite you in this next breath to recognize fully that that was God in them. That was Spirit in shoes showing up. And now I invite you to take another deep breath And think for a moment, create the spaciousness for a memory to surface when you may have surprised yourself by being compassionate or kind or loving in a moment when you could have been cruel, a moment where you could have lashed out. Just allow yourself to feel that fully. Maybe you bit your tongue. Maybe you walked away. That, my love, was God in you. That was Spirit in you. Thou art that. I invite you to take a deep breath and open your eyes. From the reading this morning from Father Richard Rohr, he wrote, "Love is our deepest identity." Love. Love is our deepest identity. You know, we talk so much about identity these days, identity or our identities. It's kind of a buzzword, you know? We talk about identity in the context and complexity of gender, of the pronouns we use, of our work, of our art, a whole host of things. But the idea that love is the deepest or most true identity, that is so powerful, isn't it? That shifts it. That shifts it. That the most important identity of all of our identities is love. And how do we know that love is our deepest identity? That love is the most true thing about the fabric of who we are as human beings? It is because of the holy moments that we just witnessed, that we just remembered, the holy moments when we experience compassion from another or when we choose compassion. When we hold to this, when we remember that our deepest identity is love, we can't hate. It's impossible. They can't live together in the same breath, in the same sentence, in the same moment, in the same experience, in the same being. So how do we support eradicating hate on the planet? By being more loving. By choosing love wherever we can, whenever we can, even when it's much juicier to be hateful. The place where God dwells is in our compassion for ourselves and others. That's where God dwells. That's where God lives. You know, we are in the process right now of breaking apart the old ways of being on this planet, the ways that heretofore have divided humanity. But hold to this idea of love. In Ukraine, for example, despite the old idea that a country, a people, a culture can just be taken or stolen, despite how hard Putin attacks Ukraine, it only makes the resolve of the Ukrainian people stronger. Do you see? It makes them stronger. Love is making them stronger. We are seeing this kind of hatred dissolve all over the world. We're seeing the protests in Iran on behalf of the women there, dissolving the old for the new world that is emerging. We are seeing this in China, of all places. Oh my word. It's profound. If you've ever been to China, if you've ever traveled there, to see what is coming out of that country, I sit there and I watch with tears the bravery, the courage, The old is being replaced by the new, and the new is love. Love that actually has always been here. Love that was spoken of in the Bhagavad Gita thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. We humans just lost our way. We, my friends, are here to be compassion in the world. We are here to support this new world that will be founded on spiritual principle and universal compassion led by love. And just as the old outdated idea of a mean or cruel God man in the sky is transforming, we are in step with that as we are transforming into love here and recognizing the divine here. Do you see the connection between those two? As we begin to understand that the divine is love, we begin to live and walk and breathe in the idea that we too are love. It is no accident those two things are happening in our lifetime. A church like this, to think that a church like ours, that is all inclusive and welcoming and honoring of all faith traditions and all people, that is dedicated to social action in the world, to think that this would have existed thousands of years ago. Do you see how far we've already come? I invite you to not be disheartened. It's easy. It feels like sometimes, we go one step forward and 3 steps back. But just know that is the work. That is the work. It's all connected. So take heart. Some wonderful news this week. Thank God. This week, the Congress passed the Respect for Marriage Act, putting systems in place to protect marriage equality. Yes. But understand, in this process of 1 step forward and 3 steps back, what it does is it strengthens those that are moving forward. It strengthens our resolve. Do you see that? We can feel so disappointed and we can feel so upset, rightfully so. But it strengthens us and our resolve even more to continue moving forward. I want to read to you something that I just love. And this is from the Right Reverend Michael Curry from the royal wedding of Meghan and Harry. Do you remember that? So just take a moment. I invite you can close your eyes if you want. I invite you just to let this wash over you. He said, stop and imagine for a minute. Think and imagine. Think and imagine a world where love is the way. Imagine our homes and families when love is the way. Imagine our neighborhoods and communities where love is the way. Imagine governments and nations where love is the way. Imagine business and commerce when love is the way. Imagine this tired old world when love is the way. When love is the way, no child will go to bed hungry in this world ever again. When love is the way, we will let justice roll down like a mighty stream and righteousness like an ever-flowing brook. When love is the way, poverty will become history. When love is the way, the earth will be a sanctuary. When love is the way, we will lay our swords and shields down by the riverside and study war no more. When love is the way, there's plenty of room for all of God's children. When love is the way, we will treat every person like we are all family. So, my friends, this week, I invite you to pay special attention to compassion that shows up in those small, holy moments within yourself and within others. Make it conscious. Are you willing to do that this week? To name it as it happens, as compassion and holy, as helping to usher in this new world, this new compassionate world? Name it as love in that moment. That is what it is. That's the first thing this week. The second thing I'm going to invite you into this week is to remember that love is your deepest and most true identity. That's what's most true about the identity of you. And that is what is most true about everyone, every being. And finally, I invite you to recognize that you are here, you have incarnated here, we have all incarnated here as part of the ushering in this new world where love is the way. So let us together lead with love in all that we do, in all that we say, and in all that we are. Hi, friends. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that this message supported you. We are a nonprofit, and we do all of this based solely on the gifts that you give. No amount is too small or too large. You can text to give. You can go online and check out our website. We're doing so much. You can give that way. Thank you so much for being here, for being a part of this community, and for supporting this message of bringing more light, more love, and spirit-led social action out into the world. Thank you. You're loved. So loved.